Pawan Goenka, President of the Automotive Division at M&M and also the President of SIAM, joins us live on the show. Mr. Goenka, thanks for chatting with us. First up, I want a big industry view from you because many believe the industry is staring at another round of slowdown. Just yesterday you indicated that you might have to revise growth targets sometime in October. What is your sense?
Well, we will look at performance for the 3 months and in October come out with a new forecast. When we had done it in July, we had to reduce it by a couple of percentage points from the original forecast. Right now, the two-wheel industry is doing well, and which does contribute quite significantly to overall average. And therefore, we may not have to reduce the overall average of 11 to 13% that we have said. But clearly, the passenger vehicle industry is having a bit of a difficult time. The 2 months of July and August both have been degrowth months. And therefore, our original forecast that we had made of about 10% growth in passenger vehicle may have to be revised. But it will be premature for me to say that right now, because we have to look at overall all the indicators and decide in first week of October what the forecast will be.
What is your own sense of a price hike? Because we've seen some automakers increase prices. For M&M specifically, do you think the time has come for you to relook at prices?
Well, we constantly revisit prices depending on the input cost and change it when we need to. We have done a recent price increase in the month of August also for some of the models, and I cannot say specifically when the next price increase will happen on which model, but certainly with commodity prices going up, though not as much as we had anticipated, there will be some price increases in the future. But timing I cannot tell you right now.
But likely in the next couple of months, Mr. Goenka?
Very difficult to say that. We have to time it based on many factors, and therefore we frankly don't even decide just a few days in advance when the price hike might happen and in what magnitude.
Right, Mr. Goenka, fair valuation on that. But with respect to your tractor segment growth, you recorded the second highest growth in the segment. If you could just run us through whether that will be sustaining. And you also have reports talking about the plans to generate $18 billion in revenue in 8 to 10 years from the defense segment.
Well, I cannot talk about the defense segment. I'm not intimately familiar with that. As far as tractor is concerned, tractors industry is having a good year this year. In fact, the growth is somewhat better than what we anticipated at the beginning of the year. The monsoons have been very good. The overall sentiment is very positive in the rural economy and agri economy specifically. And therefore, tractors are showing us a growth of 15% plus for the year. This is on top of 2 very good years of high growth for tractor industry. Mahindra & Mahindra also is in fact performing slightly better than the market. We have picked up slightly on the market share by about 1 percentage point. And we are quite happy with the way the tractor industry is going. Not just in terms of volumes, but also the type of tractors that are selling more. The industry is moving more and more towards the higher end tractors, which means that the Indian farmer is graduating to higher mechanization, which again is good news for the industry.
What is your sense of revenues coming in from exports in the near term? Do you think that the revenue mix could change and a significant amount of revenues could come from exports going forward?
You mean tractor or automotive?
Automotive.
Automotive. In automotive, for Mahindra & Mahindra, we have a good growth. In fact, the growth in export segment for the first 5 months of the year has been more than 70%. So we are seeing a good potential in export. The export revenue per vehicle tends to be higher because we sell more of SUVs and pickup and not so much of our three-wheeler and Maxima products. And therefore, it's a good sort of offset for slowing down that we are seeing somewhat in the domestic industry. But I must also add that for Mahindra & Mahindra, we have done very well in overall growth for these 5 months. Even in the last 2 months when the industry had seen a slowdown, we have grown 30% and 40% in these 2 months. So we are fortunately not experiencing the effect of slowdown, primarily because of the expanding segments that we have, the new segments that we are gotten into. But having said that, yes, still export growth is higher than domestic growth.
All right, strong export growth. Mr. Goenka, you also have demand for the diesel cars, which has been fairly robust for most auto companies. Is the trend in demand for diesel cars and SUV building up vis-a-vis the petrol cars?
Well, we don't have data right now to show whether there is a significant increase in diesel penetration compared to petrol. This is still based on perception and the fact that many of the automakers are getting into diesel vehicles. We'll soon be compiling data on what is the movement in diesel versus petrol over the years. But I should say that over the last 3, 4, 5 years, there has been slight increase in diesel percentage, but not as much as people like to talk about. Similarly in SUV, in the last 2 or 3 months, yes, SUV sales have been somewhat bigger or somewhat higher percentage-wise than passenger cars. But over the last 5 years, if you look at the trend in SUV versus passenger car, there has not been a significant shift that you have seen in SUV. There's no increase in SUV segment compared to passenger car. Part of that also is because of taxation that we have in India, where SUVs tend to attract higher taxation than passenger cars, smaller passenger cars too.
Right, final word from you, Mr. Goenka. What's your outlook on the MCV and HCV vehicles? The volume growth there has not quite been as strong as the LCVs. Would you worry about that?
I wouldn't say I would worry about that. The growth is there, better than passenger car right now, about 8-9% growth. I think this year I would expect to see the growth to be continuing about that level, 8% or 10% level, and that's what SIAM forecast is also about. As far as LCV is concerned, that segment is growing very well, and that's growing well because of growth in the sub 1 ton segment. That has been very strong. Some new products have been launched by different manufacturers, including Mahindra's Maximo, which is driving the growth in that segment. The BOP segment also is doing very well. So the commercial vehicle segment in the lower category is driving growth. The higher category is growing, but sort of at a steady pace of 8 to 10%. That will continue for the year.